Hi, and welcome to this quick tutorial on the dynamic snow shader for Unity. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna explain some of the components from the system. Okay, we got the demo scene open here and set it up and ready to go. First, I want to talk about the rock shader. So this shader is not necessarily for rocks, but it's called the rock shader here. So it uses the normal map and the world space direction to create a mask that will overpose the snow textures. So here you can see we got the snow textures loaded here, the specular, the gloss, and everything, and it stays on top of the rocks. Doesn't matter where do I rotate it or how I scale it. The rocks will always have the snow using the top direction of the world. This helps create more realistic scenes using the same kind of rocks. With very small amount of rocks, using these shaders, you can create a great variety, because if you only rotate it a bit, you can get a vastly different looking rock. So now that we got that out of the way, I'm gonna explain the quick components of the dynamic snow system for Unity. First of all, if we click here, this is just a simple geometry, so we added the ground paint script. So what this script does, it's using the mesh collider for the object, and it listens for any collisions happening on the mesh. So here we have some simple objects here, you can see them. This has a rigid body and physics collider, so when I press play, the moment they come into contact with the ground, there's gonna be a physics interaction. What this does, it's painting dynamically a snow map, which is a texture we're using to create the height map that the snow shader uses to define which parts are pressed and which parts are not. So here we have the ground map assigned. If we click here, we can see the ground map is right here. You can see if we compare it to the simulation we just pressed, all the snow, it's painted already in the ground map because it was already simulated. So, but don't worry, if you press play again, it just clear out and start the simulation again. So there's no need to worry about manually clearing the ground map every time you start or boot up the game. So getting that out of the way, we have here a splash texture. The splash texture is basically the texture it's gonna paint on the snow map. You can use a circle splash texture, a square splash texture, or you can even change for footsteps. There's currently a bug that the splash texture is not rotating to the direction of the character models that are stepping on it, but that will be fixed in a future update. Meanwhile, we have provided some simple splash textures here that you can use with the dynamic snow system. Then we got the splash size. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. You just change the number here to change the size of the splash texture on the snow map. Now we also need here we got a buffer component. This is a prefab. You can find it in the prefab folder on the demo scene, so you can just reuse it. You just need to add the buffer to the hierarchy to the scene to be able to reap its effects. So you just assign the snow map to the buffer. Here we got it assigned already, and you can change if either you want the snow to fade over time or not. You check the box here, it will use the timer we got here. Like here we have 0.5 seconds. So this means that every 0.5 seconds, the snow will automatically fill again. So if we look over here, where we follow this little ball running around in the snow, here we can see that the snow is slowly filling over time. If we change this effect to, I don't know, 2, and press play again, let's follow the ball again, you can see that the effect is quite faster right now. So, you know, faster numbers might seem like quick jumps in here. If we press it 0, you can see it's way faster. So 0 is basically instantaneously, If we add a bit of the number, it takes more time. The bigger the number, the longer the time will take to fill. So yeah, that's that. Now I'll talk about a bit how to set this up. So I'll put on a new scene. Don't save. Here we got a perfectly new scene. So let's try with some basic game objects. Here we'll create a plane, and we'll put it in 0, 0, 0 for simplicity's sake. And it just sorry about that. It's not working for some reason. Okay, here we got it on the origin. Now we'll create a material. Let's call it snow test. So we assign this material. Here we go. You can change the color if you want, it doesn't matter. But the quick thing we need to do is that this is using the standard shader. We don't want to use that. We want to use the dynamic snow system. So we go here and we got some options. We got the node tessellation, which is a basic snow shader that instead of just depressing the snow, it's for more simple systems that cannot do tessellation. So it just paints. Let's check it out. It just paints the snow texture overlay. So here, let's put on this textures. So this is gonna need a base color. So we got the snow diffuse. It's gonna need the specular map. So we add snow specular, the gloss map, the height map, and the normal map. It's right here. Okay, we'll turn the light a bit down. Since it's white, it's gonna get way too burn out the lighting. So it's already assigned the ground map. The shader automatically finds the texture called ground map and it automatically assigns it. You can see it's already here. So what the basic version of this shader does is that instead of generating geometry, let me turn on the wireframe. You can see instead of generating geometry and tessellating it and using the height map to deform the snow, if your system doesn't support it, it's just gonna paint with an overlay where the snow mask is. So let's add the snow component. It's called snow, but no, not the buffer, the ground paint. Here it is. We assigned we assigned the render texture, which is the ground map. Let's assign a splash. It's in textures, splash textures. We assign a quick splash and we put 0.5 on size. Let's rotate it a bit and let's create a simple sphere. Okay, we got the sphere. Oh, it's way too big. Let's put it small. Let's add the rigid body so it's affected by physics. So let's change the camera since we cannot see anything over here. Sorry if this is taking too long, but oh, there we go. Okay, excuse the badly done camera, but now if we just do play, you can see it's already painting the collisions, but the collision looks kind of bad, right? So what we need to do here is first of all change the splash size since it's way small. So let's change it to, I don't know, 3. Let's see how it works. It's not doing anything. I'll check this out. 0.1. There we go. So yeah, the splash size, it's helping now to create a more accurate effect. Let's say that. But now we can see it's not changed. It's not clearing. It's not clearing. Sorry, sorry about that. It's not clearing the snow texture. That's because we haven't assigned the buffer scene. So we add the buffer to the scene, we fade the snow it's going on, and we'll put 0.5 of fill time. So now with the buffer scene, you can see the snow always clears out before each play press. So there we go. We can see every place where the ball goes. It doesn't matter if it's any kind of object, it's gonna paint the snow map. But since this is the basic version of the shader, it doesn't create any kind of height. So we can change this to a distance blended version of the shader. What distance blending does, it's if you use the same snow texture for a big level, then you're most likely gonna notice that in the distance the same snow map is gonna get tiled, repeated, and use it. What the distance blending does is that, let's simulate again. Let's press play. You can see it's not doing anything because it's calling the snow texture. So we have here a distance blend value. The bigger the value, oh, let's put it really big. It's not working. Okay, sorry about that. I forgot a quick thing about the distance blending is that you need to click on the use the lower layer button to create the distance blending effect. So we can just put in black here for illustration purposes. You can see that now, according to the distance we got in distance blending, the snow map, the textures, is gonna get blended out of existence. So in scenes that we have the same textures on a big scale, it's not gonna have the same effect, and this helps prevent tiling, the texture looking tiled in bigger maps. There we go. So with that out of the way, now let's go to the meatier part of the component. It's the tessellated snow shader. So let's click on it. So it changes dramatically because this shading, let's open the wireframe, it's creating geometry based on distance. So if you can see, if I get more distance, it's a simple grid, but if we keep going in and getting closer, you can see the geometry is tessellating itself to create more and more polygons. So these are the polygons that are gonna get pushed and pulled according to the texture, to the snow system. Let's put a bit of red here and disable the wireframe. So the first thing you need to do is check your displacement strength. It's default on 1, but depending on the scale of your model and the scale of your components and everything, well, here it looks like way too strong. So let's take it up down a notch. Probably around here, let's check 0.3%. Yeah, 0.3. So this looks decent enough. It's got a nice little bump and it kind of works. So now we have here the tessellation edge length. Let's turn on the wireframe again. So what this does, it's depending on the length of your edge of the model, it's gonna tessellate it. So the smaller values get much more geometry. I recommend just playing with this, but depending on your GPU and the system you're gonna be used, lower values means a lot. If you can see, a lot more geometry. It's gonna look better, but it's probably gonna run worse on some systems. Let's try it. Okay, and you can see it's painting on, and it's looking decent enough. You can see there's a lot of geometry. I tend not to use that much because at some distances you're not gonna see any major difference. So I think about 20 seems to work fine. You can use even more. Tessellate less. It's basically, let's check your preferences and the graphics card you're aiming to get the game running on. So here we got on 20. It looks kind of polygonal right now, but it's done well. So you can see on these angles, you can still get specular shading of the snow and everything. And there's an extra version of this, which is the distance blended. It's basically the same as the basic shader, the basic distance blended. It just based on distance, it's called the tessellation, and now it's called the snow map. So that's basically it for the snow shader. I had a question next on the Unity forums that if you, sorry about that, if you can use terrains, but the way the Unity terrain works, it's that it doesn't let you use different shaders or even assign them itself, since it's just its own shader to blend textures and everything. So it won't work. But there's a quick workaround for it. So let's create a simple, where is it? 3D object terrain. Let's create a simple terrain to illustrate it. So here we have a terrain. I'm gonna paint some quick things over. Oh, it's way too strong. So I'm gonna paint some quick things over here, like a mountain and everything. Here we go. Okay, I'm not the most artistically competent person to create the mountain, but okay, let's take these two guys. So if you're gonna use terrain from Unity, I advise you to just section it, and if you're gonna have to use snow, you can create a flat plane like I just did and just put it on top. Yeah, so it's not gonna be full open world and everything, but you can create small patches of snow that are interactable with the environment. So here we have a little small patch of snow. Let's imagine this is a rock texture. Okay, well I'll just add it. Here we go. Terrain textures, it did. Sorry, I never actually used Unity terrains because I tend to model my own terrains. So yeah, that. So it's kind of hard to me to do this. Okay, let's assume this is a snow patch, and well, we just put on a flat plane, assign the snow textures. Oh crap! And we have the ball reacting to the snow and to the terrain. So that's one way to do it. I'm sure people will find better ways to do it, since well, people are very creative. So I guess that's about it. So sorry for not working on Unity terrain, but it's just the way Unity terrain is set up, and it works with textures and shaders. So yeah, I guess that's it. Any more questions? Just post it on the forums. I'm willing to help everyone who gets any kind of issues with the snow shader. I hope this helps to alleviate some questions of the shader. Alright, goodbye.